Welcome to Nutrition Lunch and Learn, and you are live with Sandra, your RDN. Every week, I have the pleasure of dishing out your weekly dose of nutrition and wellness news for your mind and your body and your soul. And I hope that everybody had a wonderful weekend. I hope that your day is going well. And for those who are listening live, I thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Hopefully, you're having lunch. You are resting, you are recuperating, rejuvenating for the second half of your day. I thank you for tuning in. And those listening to the replay, I thank you also for taking time out of your schedule to just pause and take in some information that will better you as well as your family. And so we are in August. Can you believe it? The summertime madness is over, and now it's time to get back to a routine. What is that? It's been a few months, right? And so it's all about going back to school. Even if you don't have children or you're past that phase in life, it still applies because even when you don't have kids, things are still even laxed for you all. There's less traffic, there's less going on. So it's just something about the summer months that now we got to kind of get back on track, get back on a routine, hence get back on a structure. And so we are kicking things off this month with trying to get back on that structure with fast food versus home cooked. Pros, cons, right? But we're going to go beyond the basics. I mean, we know the obvious, but let's dig a little deeper and determine what are really some pros and cons to fast food versus home cooked. And so check out some of these surprising statistics about eating out versus eating at home. And so Americans spend about $1,200 on fast food per year. Okay, some people spend more than that. But in fast food, we can kind of spill that over to restaurants too, because there is a distinction between fast food and eating at a sit-down restaurant. But it's still eating out, really, at the end of the day. Number two, U.S. families annually spend approximately $3,000 dining out. Approximately 80% of U.S. citizens visit fast food restaurants monthly, okay? And then we have 23% of U.S. adults dine out at least 3 times per week, okay? So all of this leads to the health disparity that we have, some of the health conditions we have, weight and weight-related chronic diseases, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, inflammation, GI health, you name it. So with your busy life, you might find it easier, faster to grab fast food on your way home, during your work, after work, but the convenience comes at a price, okay? And we can take it a step further because restaurants has takeout. So really it's just about takeout, okay? And so today I'm going to reveal 2 most common pitfalls regarding eating out. And then we're going to point out a few nutritional differences between home cooked versus eating out, fast food. And then what are the keys? What are the keys to balancing both worlds? Because it is unrealistic to think that you would never, ever eat out. You should eat out. It's for fellowship. It's for enjoyment. Give yourself a break from cooking, etc. However, we probably want to make sure we are managing it a little differently. And so a quick introduction of myself for those who do not know me. I'm Sandra Goltry. I'm a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and your accountability partner. And my mission simply is to show people how to get food to work for them rather than thinking of food as the enemy. So I take joy in adding a variety of foods back on clients' lists, on that avoidance list. I take away that avoidance list so that you actually can lose weight, keep it off, boost your energy levels, and just feel great about yourself without dieting and without feeling like you have to deprive yourself of your favorite foods. And the goal is to build a lifelong habits, lifestyle habits that last, okay? And so for those who are tuning in, say hello to me, chime in, tell me your name, where you're tuning in from. Are you kind of shifting your mindset to getting back on track, getting back on a routine? And let me know where you stand in that department. Are you dreading just the going back to school part, or maybe work changes because the summer months are over. Sometimes people's work changes, adjust. So just kind of let me know where you stand with that. But it's all about getting back on a routine, getting back on some form of structure. We're talking about back to school as our theme. And how do we get back on that structure? So we're talking about fast food, whether that's takeout, etc., versus home cooked, the pros and the cons. And we are going to go beyond the basics. Okay. So I'm going to kind of recap this again. So with your busy life, you might find it easier and faster to grab fast food or just grab some takeout on your way home from work or even while you're at work. But this convenience, remember I said, comes at a price. And I'm not speaking money solely because we know we're going to spend money, but research continues to support that homemade meals tend to have a healthier nutritional content, a nutritional profile than takeout. And so this includes vegan restaurants and those marketing themselves as healthy, okay? And I'm gonna talk about that more. And so you can spare yourself those unwanted calories, the carbs, the saturated fat, and especially the sodium by preparing your own meals at home with fresh, healthy ingredients, possibly even reducing your risk of hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. So definitely. When I talk about saturated fats, that is going to affect your LDL, which I call the lousy cholesterol. And so people who tend to have high cholesterol or high LDL levels, it's a combination of that saturated fat coming from whole, like dairy products, skin on meats, oils that are at room temperature. They are hard at room temperature. They're solid at room temperature, like coconut oils and tropical oils and things like that, and lack of fiber. Because usually when you're eating foods like that, you're eating less fiber, okay? And there's different forms of fiber, but all of that stuff plays a role over a period of time, okay? And so I always like to do my poll. And so chime in, participate. You all know I love engagement. So please share questions, comments, hey, your own testimony, okay? So make this interactive, okay? So I'm able to give you more when I know exactly who my listeners are. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. So post. So here's my poll time. How many meals per week? So not necessarily days. So this is a little different. How many meals per week are you eating out? 1 to 2 per week, 3 to 4, 5 or more. Maybe you just can't even keep track. But how often are you eating out? Okay. And so I'm going to lead today's discussion with one of the top cons to eating out. So while I'm waiting for those responses to roll in, I'm going to start talking about one of the most top cons to eating out. All right. Number one, this is the big one, the biggest one probably of all. Too much sodium. Okay. And I will point out the food does not have to taste salty in order for it to have a lot of sodium in it. Okay. That's where that nutritional information comes into play. Okay, so statistics reveal that 89% of Americans eat way too much salt. Okay, this was definitely me once upon a time when I was not aware. And so this goes beyond cooking with salt. So a lot of times people think, well, I don't cook with salt. That's not the culprit. The culprit is really not cooking with salt. Okay, and so excessive salt, what it does, intake, it causes water retention. It can cause our blood pressure to raise, and it results in damaging our heart, our blood vessels, brain, kidneys, things like that. And so it's just over time so we also know it as bloating. So water retention is probably the more clinical way of saying it, but bloating is what we typically say just in general conversation. And so the pro, when you're at home, you're inclined to use less salt to season your meals, but at restaurants and fast food outlets, use generous amounts to enhance the flavor. And it's not necessarily shaking the salt, it's what they're marinating it in. It's the different seasonings that they may use and so forth to, of course, add the flavor. And so food additives and preservatives, they also contain salt. And so the key note here, so again, we'll repeat, the food does not have to taste salty to have a high amount of sodium in it. And so everybody's salt sensitivity is different. And so for me, I'm very salt sensitive, especially over the years as I have cut back more and more. But I will say to you, no matter what your salt sensitivity is, if you can taste the salt, it is way too much. Okay, way too much if you can taste it. And so I am going to do a poll here, because this always breaks people's hearts when we talk about this one. Okay, so what do you normally opt for when you are ordering out, eating out? What do you opt for? Okay, grilled chicken, the soup with the salad, something vegan or plant-based? What do you find yourself gravitating to? And for most people, it's because you feel it's a healthier choice, than of course getting something fried or something like that, or something marinated in or drenched in cheese or drenched in salt, sauce, and stuff like that. So, what do you gravitate to? The grilled, something that's grilled chicken based, a soup with a salad, or something vegan or plant based? Okay, really, really, really curious. And so, for chicken, that's either a salad or entree. Okay, and not just chicken. Let's say maybe it's the grilled salmon, some kind of grilled protein, regardless of what that protein is. What about the non-cream based soups? Okay. So they're usually, because the cream based soups are usually higher in fat. So most people will opt for a non-cream based soup. And then for the vegan option, this includes vegan restaurants as well. Or, of course, there's usually a vegan menu or a section on the menu that people will gravitate to. Okay. So keep your answers. Don't change your answers, because this is all about education. This is all about understanding, what's not really being said to you when you order. Okay. And so the grilled chicken and soup with salad are extremely high in sodium. Okay. And so let's talk about the chicken. Okay. So they're both low in fat, but let's talk about the chicken first. So that one's low in fat, is lean. We all know that. However, in restaurants, it's is packed with sodium in many cases before it even gets to the restaurant. And then by the time they prepare it with their seasonings, their marinades, whatever the recipe is, then now the sodium content is even more. And a lot of that is because in the packing process and early in the distributed process of getting that chicken from the farm to the restaurant, it's packed in sodium this, sodium that, to prevent bacteria, to keep it sanitary, and etc. Okay. And so therefore it's salt in it already. Okay. And then by the time it gets to the restaurant, then they're adding their own stuff. And so that is that's the downfall with the chicken. You have to be careful with that. And then soups are usually made with broth, right? It's going to be made with broth, and that broth is broth. You can look at the label on broth and you can see how much sodium is in broth. And so that's pretty typical. So it's natural to think, oh, soup and salad. Yes, it's lower in calories. Yes, it's lower in fat. However, that's the hit. Okay. And that's the part that people typically do not realize is that's the hit. And so therefore, what you think you're saving in calories, you're bloated and you're retaining water and you're getting less nutrients that your body needs, etc. And so I'm so sorry to break my Chick-fil-A lover's heart, because a lot of times I hear my clients say, "Oh, I'll go out and I'll go to Chick-fil-A and I'll get the grill this and the grill that." So still, you want to limit that. Okay, you want to limit your dining out, because doing that every day will definitely still take a toll on your body. Okay, vegan menu usually falls in the same category. Okay, it's high in sodium. Okay, I've looked at a lot of vegan options on the menu, and I look at the nutritional information, and I look at the vegan stuff in the store, and the perception is because it's vegan, it's like automatically have this like healthy tag to it, but that's not always necessarily the case. In many cases, we're still taking a sodium hit. In some cases, a fat too. But definitely, you still have to be mindful, even if it's a vegan type restaurant. Okay, and so I always highly recommend looking at the nutrition information to confirm the sodium content. Okay, I've had many people clients come to me where they've gone vegan, and a lot of those products are very highly processed. So we're not talking about the edamame and the tofu and the tempeh. We're talking about the boga burgers and the hot dogs and all the different forms of it. The Beyond Burger. You got to be careful, and you got to really read the label to make sure that it's as healthy as we think it is. Okay, and so do your research. Okay. Definitely do research. So another pitfall, and again, continue to post comments, continue to post your feedback, continue to post your questions, because I know this is going to break a few people's heart. I know, I know, I know. There's a way to do vegan. There's a way to do it, but you can still do it with whole foods. Okay. And that's the part that usually kind of falls through the crack. You don't have to do all this processed stuff. And so weight loss is another pitfall to eating out, okay? Especially if you are somebody who is trying to lose weight and you're not necessarily in weight maintenance mode. And so, did you know that a value meal at a fast food restaurant can cost you all your recommended calories that you need to consume in a day, okay? Easy, easy, okay? So eating full portions at some restaurants can come in more than double than what an individual caloric needs really are. So it's no wonder that it's very easy to, even though you may not feel like you're eating much because maybe you're not eating as often, like frequency wise, but when you are eating, it's almost making up for when you're when you're not eating. So a pro is homemade meals typically supply fewer calories, which is helpful if you are trying to lose weight. And plus you have control. Okay, you have control over what you're eating, and that's really important when you're trying to lose weight, because then if you understand and you learn the art of nutrition and learn how to build your meals and understand what that really means, then when you're in weight maintenance mode, like weight loss maintenance mode, you're able to keep it off versus not really knowing what to do to keep it off, because it's a different type of eating to lose it and then to maintain it, believe it or not. Okay. And so let's talk about, so my other poll question here is, so again, how many meals are we eating out per week? Okay, so I asked that at the beginning, but I'm asking it again just because sometimes we forget some meals. So is it 1 to 2 or 3 to 4 or 5 or more? Okay, so I'm asking this question again. The recommendation for most people, I hate to say all, but for most people, because it's just good general practice, okay? Especially if you have a heart condition or cholesterol and things like that. But just in general, it's good practice to limit your eating out to 1 to 2 meals per week, okay? For overall good health, blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, for weight loss and for weight loss maintenance, okay? And so you're not feeling bloated and feeling just bad. It's good to limit it to 1 or 2 meals a week. I remember when I was growing up, eating out was a luxury. It has become like a convenience, like it's almost like it's supposed to happen nowadays to eat out. And so go back to those days where, hey, it's a luxury, something that you look forward to, but you don't want your body to pay the price for it. Okay. And so now let's talk about the not so obvious. Okay. So let's talk about the going beyond the basics part with managing the pros and the cons of eating out, fast food, restaurants, whatever that is, versus takeout. So the nutritional difference, let's talk about the nutritional difference. So when comparing the nutritional value to food at restaurants, et cetera, versus home cooked meals, the meals that you prepare yourself are frequently much healthier if they're not highly processed. Okay. So there's always some caveats to that, because we can cook unhealthy at home as well, right? And so fast food and restaurants meals are higher in salt, artery clogging, cholesterol, and calories typically. Okay, so one of the pros to preparing your own dishes is that you can control your ingredients. You can substitute different items for lower fat, or maybe more of a natural sugar, or something that's lower in sodium options, and include more vegetables and more whole grains. So you can make those good substitutes and you still enjoy the food and it still tastes good. A lot of times people feel that healthy foods must taste bland, or it must taste, and that's not the case at all. There's plenty of ways to make our food, whole foods, healthier and it not taste bland. Also, another pro is when you choose health, you're able to choose more heart healthy fats for your recipes, and that's going to contribute to overall good heart health. So you can substitute the artery clogging type fats and oils and things like that for a heart healthier. Okay. And then you can also manage your portions, okay, that you dish out. And so the larger than necessary serving sizes that you have at most restaurants leads to overeating, because a lot of times people don't have that discipline to eat half of their food and things like that, because it's there, you're going to eat it. Or Many people have been raised, you got to eat everything on your plate, which, back when we was raised to do that, things were a lot healthier back then. So that concept now is not good for us, okay? It would definitely pack on the pounds. So, example, instead of a 12-ounce steak that you might order at a restaurant, you can enjoy half of that, or a portion of that, 3 or 4 ounces of that meat. But then you also are filling the rest of your plate with healthy vegetables. You're having your whole grains and things of that nature. So you're making sure you have your plate rounded with a variety of foods and not just doing a lot of one food. And then that also does not give us a high level of satiety when we do that. Okay, so also, instead of the sugar-laden desserts that tempt you at restaurants, you can order fresh fruit or share the dessert and things like that. So there's ways to still enjoy your sweet tooth without it sitting on you for days. Okay, and that's really what we want to get to. So post comments, post feedback, post situations, post your aha moments, anything. Okay, and so do you think an upscale restaurant is healthier? So I posed this question. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and she thought that, okay, if you're eating at a restaurant that's more upscale, 5-star restaurant, et cetera, that it's healthier. So what do you think? What do you think? And I'm quite sure, I know for a fact she's not the only one. So it just kind of made me think, because I'm like, oh, okay. I know to put all restaurants on the same scale, because it's still a restaurant, whether it's McDonald's or whether it's a high-end restaurant. It's still a restaurant. So what do you think about that? Okay, so let's see here. So what do you think about upscale restaurants compared to like a BJ's or Bahama Breeze or Outback, which is that's kind of more of your I guess your mid-level restaurants? Yes, no, not sure. What do you think? What do you think? Well, I'm going to share that you still have to be mindful. You still have to pay attention. It doesn't automatically mean it's low in sodium, that it has, all the pieces in place. It doesn't automatically just mean it's healthier or the better option. You still have to do your homework and look at the menus and pay attention to how it's prepared based on your specific needs. And so I work with my clients a lot on that. And we just can't assume that, oh, it's grilled chicken, that it's healthy. We want to make sure that we really understand what we're eating. And so, but let me know your answer. Don't change it. So takeaway message. So dining out as a treat. So I had mentioned that earlier, dining out as a treat. Look at it as something to look forward to, because it was a luxury. Treat it like it's a luxury, like I had stated before. Life has become more complicated. We are more busy than before. And it's just out of the norm. And so it's very easy for us to just say, oh, let's call for this. Let's order out. We got Uber Eats now. We got things that can just get delivered. Before it was just pizza. Now it's like everything. And so unfortunately, that norm has led to an unhealthy America. I mean, it really has. And so the real question is, how do we change the outcomes? How do we find a balance of enjoying life and being healthy? And so decide as a family, or if you're single, decide what 1 or 2 meals per week are you going to enjoy eating out. Okay. Enjoy your favorite restaurants. Learn to eat mindful. Okay. That does not mean deprivation. That does not mean restricting. That does not mean avoiding. Okay. So that's another area that I work a lot with my clients on. What does eating mindful really mean? Okay. And so that is very, very important, because a lot of times we take things off our plate that we don't really need to take off our plate. And so therefore we feel like being healthy is bland and boring and things like that. And so, do you need help with cooking your meals at home? What does that look like? Okay, maybe you need to understand what mindful eating looks like. What does it mean to eat colorful and around the plate, and making sure that you're eating adequate? Okay, so I got you. So I want you to check out my 5-day meal plan. It has fast, easy to prepare meals. It contains a step-by-step meal prep guide and an itemized grocery list. And so it is called Jumpstart Your Weight Loss and Boost Your Energy Levels. That's probably 2 of the biggest concerns and challenges that people have. How do I lose this weight? How do I keep this weight off? And feeling tired all the time. Okay. And so this is a free meal plan and a guidebook. It is chock with, you have your meals, you have your snacks. You can do the plan in its entirety for the 5 days, or you can pick and choose different recipes. But the goal or the point is to really see how much variety you really have and how easy it is, and how eating at home or even eating healthier doesn't have to come as this huge expense or this major time consumer either. With the meal planning and prepping, I love that, especially for those who are not used to doing it or feel like they don't have time to do it. This way, it is showing you how you can prep and plan. You don't have to do the whole week, and on Sunday, things can get staggered. And the whole goal is I want you to really see what it's like to grab and go. It's a beauty in being able to grab and go, just pop things in the microwave, because the unexpected pops up. You never know when things are going to kick in and kind of derail you a little bit from your routine, but at least you have things prepared to where with the derailing, it doesn't cause you to spiral with what you eat and what you don't eat. And so that's really what we want to get you to ultimately. So definitely download it, actionchoices.com/jumpstart, and you can download your free copy. And I would love your feedback on it. All right. So again, post any questions, any comments that you have. Those listening to the replay, also participate and post comments and questions. I do follow the thread. I do look for comments as people are listening to the replay, because again, I want you to feel as part of the process as those who are listening live. And so this concludes what I have for this week's dose of your nutrition and wellness news for your mind, your body, and your soul. And I am Sandra, your RDN. Thank you for tuning in for today's Nutrition Lunch and Learn. And next week, we are going to continue. We're going to continue on this August theme, getting back on track, going back to school, it's about getting back on a routine again, finding that structure back. Okay. And so next week, we're going to talk about the number one mistake that wrecks weight loss efforts and what those solutions are. And it is not what you think. Okay. It's not overeating. Okay. So it is not what you think. So definitely tune in and check out what that number one mistake is that we make. And blessings to each and every one of you. And thank you for tuning in. And